see, I also think, we also want to throw this out to you, results of marginalist living are counterproductive. If we get more rest, we are seeing you actually become more productive. Studies have shown that those who actually get rest, the right amount of rest at night, and the sleep that they need, and based off last week, remember physical margin, listen to this, you have the opportunity to lose weight quicker if you get proper amount of sleep. So guys, that's not an excuse for when you go home today, you're like, perfect, take a bag of Doritos, going to eat them, going to lay down, and everything's good, right? Not exactly. But the reality is, it's also known that you actually will be more productive in life if you get rest. If you get the rest that God is asking of you. My brother used to work for a company over in Kansas City, and he tells that their company started allowing people to take rests or naps in the middle of the day. Okay? Companies started doing this because they noticed people were productive. He said he didn't realize that they did this, and all of a sudden, little by little in the middle of the day, people disappeared. And all he saw was their shoes underneath their cubicle. And they had like a little blankie and a little pillow, and everyone's taking 30-minute naps. He never participated in that, and I just want to tell you, if we ever did that at the office, which we probably won't, I'm locking my door because I don't trust any of you while I'm sleeping, okay? But it says that we actually have more ability to grow when we have the opportunity to rest. So we see that results of marginal living are actually counterproductive. We don't get more in what we need. We don't get more in growing to Christ. We actually push further away. You see, the reality of marginalist living is that it takes away from what is important. I want to tell you, when I do not have margin in my life, the first people who suffer is my wife and my kids. The first people. OSHA says, they came out with a study last year after some polling, that the average couple in a home works 700 hours more a year now than they did 20 years ago. As a couple, 700 hours more. You know what's interesting? I still have people, we hear it all the time, and maybe you understand this, you've heard this too, they still don't have more money, they're still broke, they're still complaining, but they work 700 hours more during the year as a couple. You see that when we don't have margin in our lives, there's things that will suffer. First is our family time. The first thing that happens when I am tired and I'm wore out and I come home and my kids or my wife have questions for me or they have something to say, because I'm wore out when I come home, you know what it means? It means I say, not now. Not now. And it can't be not now for them. It's got to be now. It's got to be then. And it's not that way. When I have margin in my life, I have enough energy to dive in and be guided and husband that I need to be at home. But when it's marginless living, it's not that there. The other thing that will suffer, I believe, when we have this idea of when we don't have marginal life is our faith community. For generations, church leadership has tried to program the church so that you would want to be a part of it. And what I mean by that is it's really defined as consumerism. What that means is that when we ask, or the church leaders would ask, what would you like to be a part of? And these are some of the things we hear. Well, you know what, I just don't have time for that. Or my time's not worth that. Or my time's worth more. In other words, it's a vicious cycle because the church begins to plan to compensate for your little bit of time and try to make the programming as flashy as possible so you want to be a part of it. All the while you continue living and we continue living more and more and more. And what really it looks like is if you only have 2 hours of free time or margin in your life, and we're buying for it as a church. And what happens is it doesn't get bought because the price is too high. But what would it look like if you had 10 hours of free time, 10 hours of margin in your life a week? You gave 2 of it to God. Would the buying price be as high, or would it be what Jesus is asking? You see, we see this, that is the definition of consumerism, is when we begin thinking that our calendar is in competition with what God has for us to do. See, the third thing is, I have to say, when we do not have margin in life, it takes away from rest. It just takes away from our time to rest. I just want to throw out here to you, how many of you live tired? That could be a rhetorical question or answer, or an honest question. You live tired. You're like, some of you are going, you're tired, all right? You get that, right? I always thought that, some people are like, well, you know, it just wasn't interesting enough to keep me awake. Well, it's because you worked 85 hours this week and slept 2 hours last night. Like, a firework display ain't going to keep you awake, right? And I say that do you live tired? Because the truth is if we do not live the way we need to, we will be tired. If we're not in context of what God is asking, we'll be tired. For the last 4 years or so here at the church, we have the staff, we've operated that we'd be in the office Monday through Thursday and be available. And the staff took Friday and Saturday as days to spend with their life and their family and their wife and their husbands, those things. And usually what happens is you get one day because other things flow over, right? And what we started asking myself the question, are we serving the church and serving the community as it's growing in the best way, being available Monday through Thursday? And I got to be honest, I had to be a tough thought and say, I don't know if we are. I don't know if we're doing the best that we can do. So starting in the fall, you're going to begin seeing that the office is going to be open Monday through Friday. But the staff will be taking a day off, a different day throughout the week and Saturday, so that we can better serve the church and we can better serve the people in the community. And you say, well, wait a minute, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Let me throw it out here to you. Lizzie in the elementary ministry, they're getting ready to start an after-school program this fall on Wednesdays. And I asked Lizzie, I said, Lizzie, what day would be best for you to have off? And she says, well, I kind of like my Friday. We all like Friday and Saturday together. You get that? Because that's like a weekend. And we start looking at her schedule, and after the backpacks and serving at the North Fairview during Monday and Tuesday, meetings on Monday, and the after-school program on Wednesday, I came to the conclusion she'll be worth nothing on Thursday, okay? And I said, you know what, you need to take Thursday off. Thursday is going to be your day off, away from here, shut down, get away. Because the reality is, if we do not have margin in our life, we will not get rest. We will live tired. And if we live tired, we live unproductively. So you ask me, Nate, so what's the solution? What's the solution to this? Like, okay, I'm buying into the fact that maybe I need a little margin in my life, but you've yet to give me like a tidbit of how I can interject it. I want you to write this word down. It'll be on the screen. It's called Sabbath. You ready for this? What's really tragic is churches, as a Christian communities, a lot of people who've been Christians a long time or believers don't even know what the word Sabbath means. We don't know that because we don't teach it, because we go, oh, that was Old Testament, right? The problem with that thought is Jesus says this in Mark 2:27. He says, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. He says that when he's being challenged by religious leaders for disobeying the Sabbath. And the reason I bring that up is because some of us have been misindoctrinated, mistaught what the Sabbath is about. If you were raised in the church, you were told that Sabbath was... We are so confident about the Sabbath. We are taught that it's a day of rest, but that day of rest has always been what? Sunday, right? Sunday. And for those people who worked on Sunday, their feet were hot, right? They were hot. I remember hearing sermons from the front that they would say this, things like this: if you work on Sunday, you need to tell your boss you're not going to work on Sunday anymore. That's easy for you to say when you're not a single mom with 3 kids and you work 4 days in a row and one of them Sunday, right? The reality is that's not a biblical term of what the Sabbath is about. When we talked about this real briefly a few weeks ago, we're unpacking it today. And when the creation time came, God created in 6 days, and on the 7th day He rested. Not because the creation of the giraffe's neck being long was tiring to God. It's because He was setting the example for the fact that we need rest. He was setting it as a God, as a leader, as a father, showing that we need rest in our life. And so I want to encourage you in this is talk about what does it look like for Sabbath. Because I want you to know this, that your best requires rest. Your best requires rest. As I said, when I do not get the right amount of sleep, you can ask my wife, I get grumpy. Okay? I know it's hard to imagine, all right? But I get grumpy. I get negative. My life is not half full or half empty, it's just empty, right? So you need rest, and God knows that, and He began sharing that with us. So we see this idea of Sabbath. I want you to know that the need for Sabbath and how you do this, you ask yourself your question, why do I need to have Sabbath in my schedule? It's to recharge your emotions. It's to recharge you. And you say, wait a minute, yes, God is an emotional God. The Holy Spirit is an emotional spirit. Jesus wept, right? The reason you need Sabbath is to recharge your emotions, recharge your connectivity with God. And we see this as I've seen people out mowing their yard, right? And they have headsets on, right? Or they're listening to music. And I tried doing that, and it was weird, okay? And the reason it's weird, because it's not cool to listen to music and hear the lawnmower in the background. Like, it's disruptive to me. But all of a sudden I was like, I can handle this though, because my daughter's got these new headphones that they were given to me from a dude. And I put them on and I was like, I'm going to be really sweaty and gross, but you know what? We can wipe them off with Clorox wipes, right? So I stick them on and I turned on some preaching. Because preaching revitalizes me. And you're going to like, that's weird, right? No, I'm telling you, just listening to good preaching. So I surf through some sermons and listen to some other guys, what they're preaching, what they're teaching, what God is saying through them. And that revitalizes me. For some of you, on your day of Sabbath, it might mean that you tear into your bathroom and remodel it. It might mean that it might mean that you get on your boat and go out on the lake with your family and just get away. Because if you're a type A personality like me, do you understand this? Like, I would sit there and I see a squirrel and I look at the squirrel, okay? I can be at my computer and I get an email. I can't let the email go. I got to respond to it like immediately. Why? Because it came in, it's a need now. Some of you that are type Bs, you could sit in the same chair that you eat your dinner in and have Sabbath time with God there. I can't do that. It doesn't work. And so I need time to get away and recharge my emotions so I'm not flatlining. If you're an individual who lives life like this, there might be a reason. There might be a reason that you need Sabbath. God has called us to be emotional beings and to connect with that. The second reason why we need Sabbath in our day or Sabbath in our week and our time is to foster relationships. Paul said in 1 Corinthians 16:18, as he talks about the Corinthian church, he says, "For they refresh my spirit and yours also." Talking about the people that are working with them. Do you know, right away when I said that foster relationships, there's probably some names that came to your mind of who it is that you just haven't spent some time with a long time, all right? And I'm not talking about the obligatory relationships, the ones that you have to talk to, you know what I mean? Like, not those things, but those individuals who recharge you. Those people who, when you spend time and drink a cup of coffee with them or drink a Coke with them, it makes you good. You know what I'm saying? Like, you walk away enriched. Because I want to tell you this, that those are the relationships that you can have during Sabbath. When I grew up and they taught us about Sabbath and the misnomer that was just Sunday, and we came and did this here, right, and this was Sabbath, the problem with that was I thought like to have Sabbath, it was just had to be like me and only God. So I was supposed to take my Bible and a journal, go out in the middle of a wheat field somewhere, and like spend the day with God. And for me, that doesn't work. You get that? Like, when I was younger, I'd read 2 or 3 verses at camp when they made you go out and do your daily devotion thing, and I'd fall asleep. I'm like, I just don't get this. Like, I don't know how to connect there. And so I want to tell you that maybe for you on your Sabbath day, maybe you spend it with somebody else. Maybe you spend it with someone who fosters something positive in you that helps you refocus on God. You see, and I just want to make it clear, just a little side note. There's some people who suck you dry. Can you nod with that? Like, there's some people that when they're around you, you feel pain, like inside you, right? And the reality is, you're looking and going, yeah, that's you, Nate, all right? Might be, all right? We can still love each other and be brothers and sisters in Christ, all right? And I'll be honest with you, sometimes that's you to me, all right? Is that fair? Not, but I'm just saying that you know the people that fill you up. And so don't take Sabbath to do work to try to foster a relationship with something that's broken, but rather something where you can speak into each other. There's a term in Scripture that maybe looks like it's called discipling. And spending time with one another, building each other up and equipping each other. See, I say this, the next thing is this, is we see that the need for Sabbath is to refocus our spirit.